Hi, everybody. Welcome to Faith in Recovery. It is Thursday and it is my turn to do the Faith in Recovery live feed. So, my name's Kelly Kirk and I am in Richmond County, North Carolina. I'm a peer support specialist and I wanted to talk about faith in recovery today. But first, let me read our little introduction. It's really quick. So, here it goes. Welcome to the Facebook Live online recovery support group, or in this case, Faith in Recovery, supported by the Sandhills Opioid Response Consortium. This is a forum where people in recovery can come together. We are here to encourage and support individuals in their recovery journey by sharing our own experience, strength, and hope. Our meetings consist of daily readings, meditations, devotionals, and open discussions. We only ask that when sharing, you adhere to the rules and guidelines of this page, and all recovery paths are welcome. Please feel free to share your questions or comments throughout the meeting. So I don't even know if anybody's going to come on, but if you have anything to say or comments or questions or anything, you can just type it in the box there on the screen. So anyway, today for the third time, we're talking about faith in recovery. So why is faith important to people that are in recovery? I think there's mainly three big reasons why faith is important in recovery. The first one is that faith gives you a power that you can rely on. You know, when you're recovering from drugs and alcohol, it can be stressful and overwhelming. You know, you can be afraid that you're not going to make it. You can feel like it's too much for you, or, you know, you can have doubts and fears and just really, you know, it can be a real struggle. And if you have someone or something that you consider bigger than you, more powerful than you, whether it's the God of the Bible, Allah, Buddha, the universe, whatever it is in your individual life that you think of as your higher power, that's something that you can rely on. It's someone that you can put some of the burden on to help you. So it's important to have a power bigger than you to help you get through it, you know. So the second one is faith gives you a sense of purpose. You know, when you're in recovery, it's a big change. It's like you've cut out all this stuff that was harming you, and you've made, or you're trying to make, a new life for yourself where you're probably having your eyes open for the first time in a long time about your real situation, you know, whether it's with your family, you know, your job, whatever it is. You're now sober or clear minded, and it's a lot, you know. And it can be, again, overwhelming. You can be not sure what you're supposed to be doing with yourself. And, you know, if you have tools, you know, well, not tools, but if you have faith, you can lean on that and have a connection to where you're not under so much pressure. And the third thing is, and I think the most important thing, is that faith helps you heal and forgive. At least it did for me. And, you know, it's an emotional time when you're in recovery. You're probably experiencing feelings and emotions that you haven't felt in a while, and thinking about things, mistakes that you've made, and ways that you've hurt other people. And it's kind of hard to find a sense of peace when you're going through that. But if you have a relationship with your higher power, that can give you strength to face everything, and just having someone to confide in and lean on and ask for help, you know, can really make a big difference rather than just going it alone, you know. So I'm just going to kind of skip around because I've got a lot of different sources, but I'm just going to touch on a few different ones. So the first thing I want to talk about is the 40 years that it took the Israelites to get to the promised land. And this is a story from the Bible that really teaches me a lot, because it's basically like God saved the Israelites from the Egyptians. and he parted the Red Sea and he guided them through. And they probably thought that they were going to go right into the promised land, but instead they ended up walking through this desert. And, at first they were probably happy to be away from the people that were enslaving them and everything. And they had Moses with them. And I mean, I feel like God was kind of testing them. I feel like that God didn't think that their attitude was such that they were ready to go into the promised land, which was the land that God had promised their ancestors a long time ago. And so the Bible talks about how after a little while of walking through this desert, this big group of Israelites, they started getting discouraged and they started being pessimistic. They didn't have much food and they were starting to go hungry. So they complained to Moses, that they were starving. And Moses, went to God on their behalf. And God sent manna, or like this bread, for them to eat so that they wouldn't be hungry. And, at first they were happy and everything. And then they needed water. And all they had was like this little bit of dirty water. So they complained to Moses again. And he went to God again. And God made it to where they had fresh water. So now they had their food and their water. But they're still walking through this desert, just miles of nothingness, and they started forgetting that God had brought them and rescued them, and they lost hope and they lost faith. And what ended up happening is most of them never even made it to the promised land. It took them 40 years to take a 10-day journey because God, they kept going the long way because they weren't mentally and spiritually ready to get the gift that God was giving them. And that sticks with me because I feel like I've went around the same mountains and walked the same path over and over again. And I think God does that because he wants us to get it. You know, it's like whatever you're struggling with, you're going to keep running into that until you finally get it right and you do the right thing, or at least that's how it is for me. And I mean, I've made wrong choices and ended up right back where I was way before then and have to go through it again and keep struggling and struggling. And it's not until I realize what I'm not doing. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do as far as what God wants me to do. And if I keep doing that and I keep ignoring what I know he's telling me to do, I'm just going to end up right back where I started until I finally do the right thing, if you know what I mean. So that story always sticks with me. But let's see. Yeah. And I was talking about this a couple of videos ago, but for me, I always think of God like my partner or my friend. And I know like we're not equals at all, but it's like I like the fact that now I don't have all these bad things that I'm doing. And I can just be open to God, or who I think God is. It may not be your God, but I can be open with him and I can talk to him throughout the day and I can ask for him to help me, with little things and with big things. And I like to check in with him and I like to acknowledge him. And now it's like I see things through kind of like a different lens. When I go outside and I see nature and all the things that God's made, and I like watching like nature shows. And like when they go to the Amazon jungle and they have like so many different insects and these ants that like do all this crazy stuff, and mushrooms, and how the trees fight for the light. And it's amazing, and he made all this in like a week, and it just blows my mind that he's so creative, and he's really like an artist, and he's brilliant. And I can't wait to eventually, be in his presence when all this is over. And I was talking to a client the other day, and it's almost like, we get caught up in this life, and we get caught up in our problems, and we get involved in our situations. And I know for me, I lose sight of the big picture, like, why am I here? What's my purpose? And I refuse to believe that we're all here by accident, that some big bang happened somewhere and we all just kind of crawled out of the bottom of the ocean and changed into different creatures. I just do not buy that for 1 minute. And, I think that for me, all those years that I did not acknowledge God, even though I believed in him, I was too ashamed to talk to him because I knew he wasn't happy with me because I wasn't happy with me and I wasn't living right. And it's just so nice to be able to just approach him now and talk to him and you know consult with him about things. And I feel like that, I feel like my spiritual maturity is just, it's happening faith by faith. Like the longer that I stay faithful, and he works through me, and he changes me a little bit at a time. And I feel like now that, he shows me things that I need to improve. Like a couple of months ago, I kind of realized that something I was doing was not right. And I hadn't thought about it that way before. But all of a sudden, I came to the realization that what I was doing was actually wrong. And I feel like that was God telling me, look, you need to work on this. And I feel like once I get past that, and it's going to take some time, once I get past that, then he'll show me something else and he'll change me like glory by glory, like the Bible says. And, I'm not totally comfortable talking about all this, but I think that sharing it also helps me. And I think that my relationship with my higher power has really helped me to have a good attitude about life. And I feel like that my relationship with him has lifted me out of my depression and my despair. And it's kind of renewed my spirit. And so I wanted to read a couple Bible quotes that kind of are along those lines. But this one is Psalms 91:14. Because I have set my love upon the Lord, he will deliver me. He will set me on high because I know and understand his name. I have a personal knowledge of his mercy. This is like the little commentary that's in the middle. I have a personal knowledge of his mercy, love, and kindness. I trust and rely on him, knowing that he will never forsake me, no, never. I shall call upon him and he will answer me. He will be with me in trouble. He will deliver me and honor me. With long life will the Lord satisfy me and show me his salvation. And I know the Bible is just a book of words, but I encourage anybody to take time and read it. And I think a good place to start is in the New Testament. And for me, my favorite book is Romans. It's like loaded with real life advice and guidance. And even though this book is like thousands of years old, it's like relevant. That was something that blew me away, is that I can relate to this stuff. Um, like it says here, hang on. I fear not, for I shall not be ashamed, neither will I be confounded and depressed, for I shall not be put to shame. But God, who comforts and encourages and refreshes and cheers the depressed and the sinking, comforted and encouraged and refreshes and cheers me. I humble myself under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt me in due time, casting all my care on him, for he cares for me. And I know Joyce Meyer talks about that a lot. Her husband always tells her to cast her cares, and she makes a joke about it. She said that when they were like first married, they could barely pay their bills, and she would sit down and write out all the bills, and they were always $40 short, and she would worry about it, and she would like recalculate it to see if somehow it would come out different and they would be able to pay everything. And she said that she used to see her husband Dave over there playing with the kids with, without a care in the world. And she'd be like, get over here and be worried about this with me, and he'd be like, I'm not going to worry about it. And he always tells her to cast her care. Anytime she comes to him and she's all scared and worked up and concerned about something, he reminds her to cast her care. It's like, cast your cares on God and stop worrying about it. Like, he's ultimately in control. And as long as you have faith and trust that he's going to work it out, he will work it out. And he actually says that in the Bible too. So I take this stuff literally. But in this other Bible I have that's got commentary, this is pretty good. It says, look beyond where you are and see with the eyes of faith, believing God for even the impossible. A hopeful mind and attitude leads to peace and joy. That speaks volumes to me. A hopeful mind and attitude leads to peace and joy, while fear and discouragement steal peace and joy. So to me, that means to me, if I remain hopeful, even when I don't feel hopeful, and have a hopeful attitude, I'm going to have peace and joy. It's like a mind thing. It depends on how you think about things. If you choose to be hopeful, you're going to be more peaceful and have more happiness. But if you give in to fear and discouragement, that takes away your peace and joy. It says it costs nothing to be positive and believe God can change you in your life. And it doesn't cost anything to believe that. If you believe it, it will happen. Jumpstart your blessings by saying you love your life and be thankful in all things, no matter what the circumstances may be. And that's another thing that I try to practice. And I'm by no means perfect. I have a lot of stuff that I still cuss too much. I still get mad too quick. I have a lot of problems, and I'm never going to be perfect, no matter how hard I try. But I know that God has changed my life. And I think being thankful in all things is really important to God. He wants us to be thankful. He wants us to give him credit, but he's not going to be like in your face about it. He wants you to do it on your own. He wants you to be sincere when you're thankful to him. And like another Bible quote says, like, through prayer and petition, make your needs and your wants known to God, and you'll get them. All you got to do is pray and be thankful and talk to God and have a relationship with him, and your life will get back on the right track. That's exactly what happened to me. I had a really bad life situation, probably the biggest crossroads I've ever faced. And there was no way, and I've talked about this before, but there was no way I was going to make it through this on my own, just me against the world. I had nothing, and I just knew the only way I was going to get through it is if I turned to God, and I did, and he got me through it. And he not only brought me through it, but he excelled me. He pushed me up a bunch of levels, and every day, even though it's been years since that happened, I am so grateful to him. I just cannot tell you the gratitude that I have, because I know what my life could be right now, and it's not. And I'm like super blessed and super grateful for that. So I'm going to just read this one more thing and then I will get off. But this is The Power. Dang it. Hold on. The Power of Being Thankful by Joyce Meyer. It's a daily devotional. Today's July 16th. Okay, hold on. Well, okay. Keep moving forward. If we are going to do anything great for God, and if we are determined never to give up on our dreams, we have to take chances. We have to be courageous. When we face situations that threaten or intimidate us, we need to pray for boldness and a courageous spirit. Feeling fear is never a problem as long as we have more courage than fear. The spirit of fear will always try to keep us from going forward. For centuries, the enemy has used fear to try to stop people, and he is not going to change his strategy now. But thankfully, we can defeat fear. We are more than conquerors through him who loves us. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is pressing forward while the feeling of fear is present. I like that because that's true. You can be afraid and still move forward. That's what courage is pushing forward through your fear. It says, when you feel afraid, ask God to strengthen you. Be thankful that he will and move forward in his strength. And I'll end on this little prayer at the end. It says, prayer of thanks. Thank you, Father, for the gift of boldness. I am grateful for the dreams you have given me and the determination to pursue them. I choose to never give up on my dreams you have placed in my heart. And that's it. So I know it was short and sweet, but I'm going to leave it here. And anybody that watches this in the future, if you ever want to message me or anything, just feel free to message me on Facebook Messenger. So thank you and have a great day.